Hey guys, so today's video is going to be a video that was inspired by the top 5 Wednesday videos and a particular topic that I saw a few weeks ago. I was particularly taken or intrigued with one of their topics from, I think it's been about 2 weeks now, and that was books for new readers. And I thought that that would be a great video idea to do because I think most of us on BookTube that watch or read, we can assume are not new readers or are people that already love reading. But I thought, you know what, there might be new people that find this that aren't into reading but that want to get into it, or maybe you just haven't read all of these books and you want to look for new recommendations and things like that. So I thought I would share. Chose my top 5. If you watch me and you've kind of watched me for a little while now, then some of these will not shock you at all because I talk about these quite a bit, but a lot of times my favorite books overlap with the books that I would recommend to people. So they may look familiar, but nonetheless, if you haven't read them yet, then you should. Without further ado, let's just get into it. First book I have to recommend, you guys are gonna laugh and hate me for mentioning because I talk about this series more than anything else on this channel and I absolutely love it. I just cannot get enough that I just have to keep talking about it because it's my all-time favorite series. It's probably the most influential series I've ever read, and I just think that everyone should read it. So if you have not read it yet, you have to read this. You have to. And that is the Harry Potter series by J.K. Rowling. You know, most people have read this, I think. I've seen quite a few booktubers on here that have not read it before. I know that when they came out, a lot of people were skeptical because it's about wizardry and witchcraft. I think that the story is not anything that is offensive to anyone in that manner. If that is something that concerns you, then by all means do not read something that you don't want to. But I know that there were a lot of people in school with me when I was younger that parents wouldn't let them read it and they thought, you know, it was evil and things like that. But overall, these books kind of strive more for the greater good, and they're just a really engrossing, interesting story. And I think that once you kind of read it and you see that, you understand, but it's hard to explain that. Why I love this series, apart from it being nostalgia for me and something that I've just loved my entire life, is because this book to me has it all, and it's really hard for me to read fantasy books without kind of comparing them to this, or even really complex world building series, because I tend to compare everything to this book and how good of a kind of development it has, and I think that that's unfair, but I just love this. It has everything to me that it should. It's very complex as far as the storyline goes, and the story setting and world is fantastic. It's magical. You hear people talk about they didn't get their letter to Hogwarts. They wish they lived in Hogwarts. They were part of the wizarding world, and if you read these, you'll understand why, because it's fantastic. J.K. Rowling has made so much detail and so much kind of time invested into this that you love it and you feel like you're there. I love the characters. It has wonderful friendships and wonderful character traits and qualities and personalities, and the storyline itself is very complex. J.K. Rowling actually planned out and mapped out all of the books and kind of the plot before she even wrote any of them. So it's very complex, and as the stories go on, it gets a little bit darker, a little bit more in depth, and things start to kind of wind together, and there's small details from certain books that reoccur in the later books that you're like, oh, that makes sense, or so-and-so, this is just a random person, they have a significance 2 books later, and things like that. So it's just fantastic. If you haven't read them, please, please, please read them and let me know what you think once you do. Next series or book I have is a part of a series, and this series is one that I read when I was, I think, late middle school, 8th grade or something, and into high school. And it's one that I really loved and really enjoyed. I kind of read this before it became a very big, popular series. I know some of you may scoff at this and some of you may not like it. I'm sure that this one has a lot of people that have read it that do not like it. But if you haven't read it yet and you haven't experienced it yourself, then give it a shot, because a lot of people judge it without really reading it or knowing it. And that's the Twilight series. Twilight is very good for a couple of reasons, and I really love this series. I like the world. It's the first kind of real vampire story that I read, so I think that that is very unique and interesting as far as how the vampires are portrayed in this book. Like the characters, I think, you know, if you're a girl and you like romance and things like that, this one's very good. It has a good love story to it. kind of a love triangle, a mixture of the romance and kind of the whole reality, realistic, real life, but it also has the vampire element and a lot of action and things like that and conflict, and it's just really good. I really like it. I think it's a good, easy read. It's not too heavy. It does have some complexity a little bit as the books go on, but it's very good. You know, by all means, if you are into the vampire kind of fantasy at all, this is really good to at least check out. Like I said, personally did not read this as a new reader, and it wasn't what really inspired me to start reading, but it is one of those books that makes you excited to be into reading and to kind of be like, wow, this is something that I love, that I'm flying through, and it's one of those that makes you excited. I remember being really excited for the releases of these books, and I wanted to mention it because a lot of people on BookTube that I watch have attributed their love for reading and kind of their beginning of being a reader with these books. And I know a lot of people have said when Twilight came out and I read it because it was so hyped, that's why I fell in love with reading and books. The next book I have is a little bit more suitable for all ages and all genders. I know not all guys will read or enjoy Twilight, and I hate to be like stereotypical with gender, but that's just, you know, a thing that not everyone's into. But this book I think everyone will like and everyone can relate to. I think it is in particular relatable the most to kind of teens and adolescents and a little bit of misfit kind of people. If you feel like you're not always fitting in, if you feel like you're a little bit on the outside, which I think all of us have kind of felt at some point. I think everyone has gone through what this book offers and that it's fantastic. This is very poetic, kind of literary in the sense of the message it sends and kind of the type of book it is, I would say, and that is The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I haven't talked about this book too much. I have mentioned it a couple of times, but if you guys didn't know, this is one of my all-time favorite books. It is definitely in my top 5 favorite, especially for standalones. I love this book and I couldn't recommend it enough to new readers, and it's perfect for new readers because it's super relatable. It's very easy to read and fast paced. It doesn't have hard language or a hard world to understand. It takes place in the real world, so it is a contemporary. It's set up in a way that the main character's name is Charlie, and he is going into high school as a freshman, and he starts writing letters to an anonymous person about his life and his new experiences, and he meets a new set of friends, and he kind of gets involved and kind of experienced with, you know, drugs and alcohol and romance kind of relationships and things like that, like I think everyone kind of does in high school, or everyone's at least exposed to. So I think it's a very great coming of age story. It has a really cool kind of friendship element too with the characters, and I love it. So definitely check this one out. It's really easy. If you don't want to invest in a series, this is a perfect one to start with too, because it's one book. It's very impactful, and I think it will touch your life in more ways than one. And also this has an awesome kick-ass movie adaptation to it. So if you have not seen the movie and you want to, read the book and then watch it. They're both fabulous. I was thinking of books that would inspire new people to get into reading more and to keep reading, and I thought that this one was really great because it's a very light, easy read. It's a romance type of book, so not all boys, again, may like to read it because I know not all guys like that. Some would, but it's just really fun, really cute, and I think this would have been one of those books that would have kept me into reading when I was younger, and something that I would have loved and I still love now, and that is Anna and the French Kiss by Stephanie Perkins. I just think that this is a great book to start with if you're not as big into reading. It's really easy, it's really light. It'll be fast-paced for you. Most likely you'll get through it quickly, so it won't be anything like, oh, I don't like reading, I don't like this. So it's really good, and I love it. I read it for the first time last year, but I know it's been a fan favorite for years now, and I think everyone should read it, and that is my next pick. And the last one I have, I just read back last year in the fall. This is one of my new favorite series of all time. I love it, and I had to recommend this because this book gave me the feeling that I get when I read books like Harry Potter that have that kind of pull at you. It's almost like you can't stand how much you love it and how much you like it. And it's just one of those that keeps you on your toes and makes you so like anxious, and I love it. This is one of those that I think is perfect for new readers because it brought back to me those old feelings of why I love reading so much and how fun it is when you have that feeling and you're experiencing that kind of world. And that is Vampire Academy by Richelle Mead. Again, another vampire story. but very, very different from Twilight. I've mentioned this, I've done a book review for this and the second book, and I've done a movie review and a movie discussion and everything because the movie for this just came out. But I love this book. If you saw the movie and you haven't read this, then read it, because I think if you just saw the movie and you didn't know much about the story, it might be a little disappointing as far as that goes, because you didn't really know what to expect or what to think about. But this book is fantastic. I love the series, and I know some people that I've watched have said they like them okay, they don't love them, they don't like the writing style, but I personally love it. I think Richelle Mead's writing style is very, very good in the aspect that it's very fun, it's very humorous, and these books have a really great love story to them, but they also have a really nice kind of setting and storyline for the vampires. It's so, so good, so addicting, and if you are into vampire books and you haven't read it, then you should. But if you're not sure because you think vampires have been overhyped, I think check it out, because like I said, it's nothing like Twilight. The vampire style and the characters are completely different. I really like the main characters of this book, and I like, again, Richelle Mead's writing style as an author because I think she's really funny. I was laughing a lot with this book. I personally love the first one, which is just Vampire Academy, but I will say that a lot of people do not like this one because they think it's kind of slow. It takes a little bit of time to get into the world. Like the first 50 to 100 pages, I was kind of trying to figure out what was what and what they were talking about, and then you kind of just grasp and catch on. But if you don't like this one that much, stick it out and read at least through the first 3, because things start to really pick up in the 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th books, and I just love this series. If you have new reader recommendations, leave them in the comments so everyone else can check them out, and I'd love to hear from you guys. So I hope you all enjoyed this, and thank you guys so much for watching, and I will put all my social media links below and links to all of the books if you want to check them out more. So that is all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye!